most listeners who are listening to the show, I'm sure in some way or another are familiar with you. But for that rare listener that may not know you, maybe a good starting place, can you share a little bit about your career journey? And then we can jump into some of those big lessons that you've learned along the way.
All right. Well, first off, Brandon, it's great to join you on this podcast. And as you'll see a little bit from my own journey, I am a deep believer in leadership being something that can be learned, because it's certainly something that I learned over the course of my career. And I think discussions like yours are hugely helpful for that. So by way of background for your listeners, I'm a lawyer by training. I started my life as a lawyer in Washington, D.C., basically moving between public service and private practice of law. So I was privileged to work for George Bush dad when he was vice president. I served in the Reagan administration, and I also served in George Bush son's administration. I was the Deputy Secretary of Energy for POTUS 43. The 41 is the dad, 43 is the son. Learned a lot from that, and built up a private practice in Washington, D.C. that was pretty significant. And then decided in 1990 to leave private practice and go and work at GE, which people thought was an odd choice because I left to go be the general counsel and the power systems business in Schenectady, New York, which as far as Washington, D.C. was concerned, it might not be the end of the world, but you could see it from there. So it was like, why are you going to Schenectady? Anyway, I was the general counsel of this power systems business. And as I joke, I was the beneficiary of GE's HR practices because GE this was during the time of Jack Welch, they'd rotate leaders every 18 months or so. You wouldn't rotate a lawyer because, you wouldn't bother to take the T&E hit for travel and expense hit for rotating the lawyers. So I'm in position for years, and after about the fifth or sixth year, I find myself sitting around the table and I know more about the business than a lot of the business people. And I got the chance to move on to the business side and did mostly M&A activity for the power systems business, ran a couple of small P&L, but mostly did M&A. And then I got a promotion and went to corporate headquarters, Fairfield, and was a direct report to Welch as doing M&A for all of GE. Then short stint in government in the Department of Energy, and one of the people I worked for at GE lost out in the succession race to Jack, Bob Nardelli, became the CEO of Home Depot, and he asked me to join Home Depot doing largely what I had done at GE, which was M&A, and we did that. And then after about 5 or 6 years of doing that, Bob and the board came to a parting of the ways, and the board asked me to be the CEO, which was a shock to me. I would say I was singularly unprepared for the job. I never thought I would be the CEO of Home Depot. I never thought I'd be the CEO of anything. And so it was a rapid process of trying to figure out what leadership was like. Home Depot, a large retailer at the time, had 350 to 400,000 employees, so a very large enterprise. And so I spent 8 years as the CEO of Home Depot trying to learn about leadership. And then since then, I've been on a number of corporate boards, probably most direct interest to your listeners. I've been on some corporate boards. I'm on the Procter & Gamble board. I've now rolled off. I was the chairman of the Delta board until this past June. Still on the Macy's board and a couple of other boards, and that's what I've done.